This is the Alternative Health Tools Podcast, Episode 28, Ashtanga Yoga, Breath and Mind, subtitled The Practice is the Teacher, with Tonya Ruddick.
So in the way that Ashtanga is traditionally taught, it is a self-practice. So you don't have a teacher telling you when to inhale and when to exhale. It's really guided by your own breath. And, we do generally 5 breaths in each posture. And so it's really, and everyone's breath is different. So that's kind of also another one of the reasons to do a self-guided practice.
Welcome back. This is Lisa Thorpe with Alternative Health Tools. And today I'm very excited that we have Tonya Ruddick, an Ashtanga yoga teacher and should we say Ashtanga yoga expert, Tonya?
I wouldn't say expert.
No.
Practitioner is good enough.
Practitioner. Great. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for calling in this morning and taking the time to be with us on the show. I wanted to ask you earlier, you've probably already done your practice and are fully into your day by now. How do you start your day?
Yeah, my days start pretty early. Usually I'm up by 3:30 or 4 usually, and have my whole little routine of, drinking lemon water and coffee and doing my writing and practice and meditation and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'm like already well through the day by now.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Ashtanga yoga? I know, I've been practicing various types of hatha yoga for many years, and I really don't know. What's the difference?
Well, technically all yoga falls under the category of hatha yoga. But Ashtanga yoga is a method that was created by and passed down by Sharath Jois and his teacher Krishnamacharya. And it's a method where we focus on 3 different things throughout the practice: the posture, or the pose that we make, the shape that we make with our bodies, and the breathing, which is the most important part, and then also the drishtee, or looking place, so where we focus our eyes. And so we use those 3 points of focus to help us try to still our crazy minds.
The monkey mind.
That's really kind of, yes, exactly. And that's kind of what differentiates Ashtanga yoga from a lot of other styles, or that is the core of Ashtanga yoga.
So it's not just about getting fit. It's not just about getting your body fit and healthy. It's also about getting and keeping your mind fit and healthy. Totally.
That's the main point of yoga, really, is to, help us control our minds.
And how did you get into this?
It's been a winding road, but I guess I started taking just different classes when I was in university, and just here and there, and I tried all different styles of yoga, and there for a while I was really into practicing Bikram or Jivamukti. And then I did a teacher training program in Bali. We focused on different styles of yoga throughout the course. And so that was the first time that I was introduced to Ashtanga yoga. And immediately I had this connection to the practice where, it was like this light went off, or some familiarity. And so I thought, I just really connected with it. And it's been ever since. That's kind of been my path now.
And you've been all over the world learning and teaching Ashtanga.
Yes. It was in 2007, I think it was. I decided to kind of leave everything behind and bought a one-way ticket to this little island in the South Pacific and just kind of went off exploring the world. And it was really during that time where I ended up deepening my practice, my spiritual practices. And that was when I really was able to go a lot deeper with Ashtanga yoga and with meditation and like different philosophies, I suppose, and spiritual practices. So it was really a good time of exploration. And I ended up staying in Asia for 7 years. and just returned back to the U.S. last year.
And what brought you back?
My boyfriend.
That's a good calling.
Yeah, it is. He ended up getting stationed on a project out here, so I decided to join him and come back.
Beautiful. Welcome back. And you bring with you, you're welcome. You bring with you many miles and many experiences, I'm sure, to your practice and to your teachings. Now, you don't teach classes, but you work with individuals one-on-one.
Right. At the moment, I was teaching classes in Seoul and then in Dubai, and then last year I taught across the U.S. in a few different places. But I'm in LA at the moment, and I'm just teaching privately right now. So, working one-on-one.
What do you feel that most of your clients come in search for, and what do you feel like the most benefit that they gain from this practice?
Initially, most people seem to come for the physical benefits, or maybe they've heard about all the good things about yoga, and they're curious to try it. And it's always amazing because everyone's so different, but eventually they may come for that, but it turns into something so much more. It's not like just going and doing a Zumba class or a Pilates class and all that stuff, which are very physically based and great for that aspect. But I think a lot of people enter yoga thinking it's going to be the same, and it's not really. So it's always neat kind of when that transition happens and to witness that.
And typically when you begin teaching somebody this type of yoga, is it I know you have, like you said, the drishtee or the focal point for the eyes, the posture itself, and then the breath. Is it a series that you teach every beginner, or do you kind of create something specific to each person? How does it work?
So Ashtanga Yoga is based on a set series, a set sequence of movements, and actually there are 6 different series in the Ashtanga method. So everyone starts out the same, learning the primary series, and it's taught slowly over a period of time, because we have to build up the strength and flexibility and endurance to be able to do the practice. So, it generally takes a while to learn the primary series, but we start off slowly, starting off with some sun salutations, the sun salutation A and B, and then a few of the closing postures, some breathing at the end, and, that's usually everyone's first practice, to kind of get familiar with some of the concepts, how to move and breathe together at the same time, and also just kind of building that strength and the heat in the body, and so you're able to do more. And we don't want people to start off like doing a full practice and then they're dead and they can't move the next day. That's not kind of the point. We want to build it slowly because we do want it to be a daily practice. We have to build up to that point.
I'm interested to ask about the breath during the postures. Sometimes I'll find when I've practiced yoga that my breath is not where the teacher is saying inhale and I'm exhaling. So I'm curious, how important is it if your inhale is when the teacher says inhale, and how do you get there where you start to get the breath in sync with the posture? Right.
So in the way that Ashtanga is traditionally taught, it is a self-practice. So you don't have a teacher telling you when to inhale and when to exhale. It's really guided by your own breath. And, we do generally 5 breaths in each posture. And so it's really, and everyone's breath is different. So that's kind of also another one of the reasons to do a self-guided practice. So it really becomes your own.
So it's not when you're breathing.
Or things like that.
Yeah, so it's not when you're breathing. Right. It's just important that you are breathing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that it's a steady breath.
Do you find that that's the easy part for people, or is it can it be challenging? What do you think is the hardest part about learning Ashtanga?
The breathing's really hard, and it takes people a while to get it. And it's interesting because you can see immediately, people that suffer from anxiety, I can tell in an instant just by listening to their breath, or like you just can tell a lot about a person through their breathing. And it's really hard. It's hard to learn how to breathe. It's hard to learn how to breathe and move at the same time and kind of worry about all these things. So that part's really hard. And I think one of the other parts of Ashtanga Yoga that can be challenging is just the commitment, because it's not really, I do have some students that just practice, a couple times a week and they do gain benefit, but ideally it's meant to be a daily practice. And that commitment's hard, showing up when you don't want to, or showing up when, you're feeling pain or it's not fun or exciting anymore. But that's really where like the growth happens.
And when you say it's really meant to be a daily practice, is that an hour? Can it be done in 15 minutes? How does it work best?
Right. Getting on your mat every day. And, ideally, yes, we want to be able to do a full practice every day, but that's not always possible, especially when you're looking at a lifelong practice. So some days maybe all you can do are a few sun salutations and sit and breathe. Maybe that's it, and that's okay. I think the point is just to get in the habit of taking that time every day to like connect with yourself and, and just kind of evaluate, see where you're at. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be this, big 2-hour practice every day. That would be great, but it's not realistic.
Not everybody has to get up at 3:34 in the morning.
Right, exactly.
But you do.
Ideally, hopefully the practice should support your life, know?
Right. But you do that. And a lot of us out there would probably go, oh, God, I could never do that. But yet at some point, that became your practice. So how does one get to a point that they are getting up at 3:34 in the morning and loving their yoga so much that it's easy for that commitment to happen? Or do you still struggle with it sometimes?
Yeah, not like I used to. It was definitely a process, for sure. I didn't start off like, 3:30 every morning, like on my mat. So, I didn't start off that way at all. So it's been kind of an evolution in the process. And like, I think after committing is the first step. And once you really commit to the practice and just know that you're going to practice no matter what, that eliminates a lot of, anxiety or thought or energy going into like thinking, oh, should I practice? Shouldn't I? Blah, blah, blah. None of that's removed. And then I think you just kind of start to figure out what works for you and like what works for your body. And for me personally, I go to bed really early and I wake up really early naturally. So it's kind of like my natural rhythm anyways, in some sense. And, I don't know. Everyone's going to be different, though. I think you just have to kind of figure out what works for you.
Makes perfect sense. And so you're now seeing clients in the LA area. What kind of people would be your ideal customers? Like, who are your clients? Who do you work with most of the time?
I've got quite a wide range. It's pretty neat. And I do teach some celebrities, and then I also teach, people that are struggling with, cancer and like, or people that are just trying to, gain some extra mobility that are, their main priority is CrossFit. So a wide range of clients, which is really fun, to get to experience all different types of people.
I just want to take a moment to let our listeners know that if they want to call in or email in, we do have a call-in line, and we also have an email. Call us at 760-561-5811. And that's both during the show or even after the show. They can leave messages, and we'll either respond after the show or during the next show. So that number again is 760-561-5811. And you can always go for additional information about the show and to learn more about our guests when you go to alternativehealthtools.com. And we always have show notes, so there'll be links back to your website. And by the way, Tonya, I think your website is beautiful. It's so simple. And
oh, thank you.
Yes. And I was looking at some of the photographs. There's a photograph of you in a posture with your legs in this perfect alignment. and in a posture that looks very challenging, but obviously it's easy for you. Have you always been flexible, or is it something that you really had to work at?
It's funny because a lot of people will comment on that, like, oh, it looks so easy. It's like, I've worked and worked and worked every day. It has not been easy.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look easy. So, and I'm sure people would love to know you, and I'm sure you can't mention names, but you said that you work with celebrities. Do you feel like there's any difference working with celebrities as opposed to your other clients?
I mean, they're just people.
Yeah.
So in that regard, no. I think the main difference really is just the scheduling is a bit more chaotic,
right.
because of their schedules, and it's a lot more, inconsistent with their travel schedules and everything else. But other than that, I mean, they're just people like everyone else. seeking
the same things, physical, mental well-being.
Yeah. I think, once again, largely initially starting with the physical. Everybody wants to look good, especially in, the whole LA celebrity scene. But then getting so much more out of it and really like recognizing, oh, actually that's just kind of a side benefit. Right. It's really about like, the mental and, just in the stability that you find and the peace and everything else that comes along with it. So
when we talk about the mental part, that gets, I think, a little bit more into the meditation. How much of a practice is meditation versus actual postures?
Well, eventually, I think, especially with Ashtanga, because it is a set series of postures, it can become like a moving meditation. But I do think that they're kind of also, at least for me, I have two separate practices. I have my seated meditation practice, and then I have my moving meditation with the asana practice. But I think the goals in each practice are kind of the same.
Throughout your travels, do you feel like, I guess I want to know, like, what has been the most challenging thing about this journey? Most challenging thing about the journey?
I guess with all the travels and the movement and stuff, I think finding that groundedness can be challenging, and just kind of like, I've gotten pretty good now at like resting in the unknown because I feel like I've had so many experiences with that. I think that's maybe been some of the hardest things to learn. It's also really good, some of the best lessons that I could learn as well. And I think that's always the case, with your struggles, your greatest struggles often come like the gems of wisdom and, and growth. What's one of the gems or the wisdom? Well, I think you just shared it, the being able to be in the moment with what is. And just like surrendering, non-attachment, letting go, like just being in the unknown and being okay with it. And I think that was definitely something that did not come naturally to me. And I've had to practice that and force myself to practice it by putting myself in these situations of, traveling all the time and moving all the time and kind of those things. Do you feel like that before you got into yoga that you would have seen yourself doing this before you started on this path? I think so. Even though like, I think for some reason I've always kind of had like a little bit of inner knowing without really knowing, right. Even when my life was totally different, I think there was kind of this sense of knowing, and once again, I didn't know at all how it would unfold. But I think if you just kind of, keep doing what is right at the moment, eventually, things kind of align and come together for you. Great advice. I always ask our guests, if you were to give one health tip to our listeners, what would be the number one thing that you would bestow upon our listeners? I think really just to take some time out for yourself every day and breathe. I think breath is so important. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned that you can even, at the very start, by listening to someone's breath, you can tell if they have anxiety. That's a pretty powerful statement. What is it about the breath of people that sounds like they have, or that they must have anxiety? Oh, they can't inhale. We breathe in a certain way in yoga, and ideally we want to have equal breathing on the inhale and exhale, so it's nice and steady. And, yes, in the inhale, and it's like, there's like almost this panic. You can feel like the fear, and they kind of get stuck. Exhale is usually fine, but it's that inhale. And so you can tell, it's really interesting, how much like anxiety and fear and things like that we hold on to. And that, just learning how to breathe can change everything.
Really, it's amazing to think that one simple thing, and just talking about it makes me feel conscious of the way that I'm breathing, and makes me feel like I'm breathing more deeply because I'm thinking about my breath. And I think I think you're right. It's probably limitless what conscious breath can achieve for people. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the breath is the direct link to our minds. They always say, like, if you want to calm down, take a deep breath, because it helps relax our minds and our nervous systems. So I think learning how to breathe properly, and then, that's something that you learn on the mat. You practice putting yourself in these, awkward or stressful shapes, and learning how to breathe through that and maintain this even and steady breath, then you can transfer that over into your daily life as well. So whereas situations before that maybe would stress you out or cause you anxiety, or things that you fear, worry, all of these things, you can like access that, like, oh yeah, wait, let me just breathe.
Yeah.
And that can help calm you down immediately.
So that's the breath. And then you also mentioned the drishtee, or the focal point of the eye. And I've heard, many times they talk about looking up and toward the center of the forehead. Is that always the drishtee? Is that always the focal point for the eyes, or does it vary? Does it matter?
It varies with the posture. So, in Ashtanga Yoga, it is a method. So each posture has a corresponding looking point. They've already figured it out for us, so we just have to do it. And so there are actually 9 different drishtis that we use. And each posture has a different drishtee. The most common one that we use is looking towards the nose tip, Nasagra drishtee. But there are 9 of them. And that's just to help, once again, minds and concentrate.
Right. And then, so it was the breath, the focal point of the eyes, and then the posture. So you've got your mind, you kind of all to bring the mind and the body into harmony. I'm curious if you feel like, what about sound? Does sound, or how we're listening, ever come into a part of yoga, or do you ever talk about that?
So in Ashtanga Yoga, the sound would be the breath.
The breath.
Which the way that we breathe, it's it sounds like the ocean. So it's you can focus on that sound as well, I suppose.
Again, bringing...
But other than that, we don't use music or anything like that. It's really just focusing inward, the sound of the breath. That would be the only place really that sound comes into play in the practice.
To calm that monkey mind.
Exactly.
Exactly. I know what monkey mind is. In fact, I was just experiencing it last night. I was feeling uncomfortable, and could just tell that my thoughts were going in a direction that weren't serving me. And fortunately, a friend called, and I kind of just started talking about the things that were bothering me, and that allowed me to see it and to see how my thoughts had run amok. And do you talk about that much with your clients about, I don't know if everybody's aware how the thoughts that are happening to us are determining how we feel.
I know. It's amazing. The thoughts dominate us.
Right.
And, we our whole experience really is in our minds. It can make a big difference. Actually, sometimes I will talk about it, but mostly in the perspective of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and other yogic texts. But ultimately, the practice is the teacher. So through the practice, you automatically start to recognize your thoughts and your crazy thoughts and your limiting beliefs and all these doubts or all these different things that come up. Just by doing this practice, it does make you observe your mind as well. And so I think just that, and once you're aware of the thoughts, and you can start to catch them, that's when you can start to change and direct them in a way that serves you better.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could all do that all the time?
I know, that's the goal.
Do you feel
Exactly.
do you feel like you have less of a monkey mind now than when you started this practice?
I don't know that I would necessarily say that, but I think I'm more aware of it, and I can catch it easier. Like, where I can, like, notice, like, oh, there I go again.
Yeah.
You know, off thinking about all this stuff. Wait, come back. Like, let's bring it back. Tame that monkey. Bring it back. You know,
right.
So I think there's a lot more awareness around it.
And the awareness brings you a greater sense of peace, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, you have an amazing practice. I mean, just the couple of images that you have up are very, very impressive. And obviously, you've got some amazing people seeking you out. What's next? What's in the future?
You know, I don't know. And I really try not to go to that place, really. Because, you know, planning for me never seems to work out. So it's like I might as well just be here and just let it unfold, because I really have no idea.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I have that experience as well, that I make these plans, and especially in business or even, you know, with my own family, and make these plans thinking that things are going to go the way I planned, and they just don't.
Yeah.
They just don't. Yeah.
No, never.
Never. Right. Yeah, never. So I think that's great advice as well. Just forget planning.
Yeah, exactly. It'll all happen anyways.
It will all happen anyways. Well, it's such a pleasure speaking with you, Tonya. I really, really admire your dedication and your practice, and I know that many, many people could benefit from learning more about yoga and about breath alone. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or share before we wrap it up today?
No, I don't think so. Just practice.
Practice. Yeah, wonderful.
Practice and all is coming.
Awesome. Tonya, thank you so much for calling in and being on the show with us, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
This is Lisa Thorpe with Alternative Health Tools. Thank you for listening.